It's so true.
At the time we were going there regularly, it was what I looked forward to most every week. And it was the place I felt just at home. We were freaks and geeks type of thing, but I still wonder about it, especially being an asshole.
Oh my gosh, I can't handle it. All right, everybody, we are live. This is Palmer broadcasting to you from Dayton, Ohio. Long Walk Short Drink episode 48, right, Dave?
48, that's right. And this Dave coming at you from Northfield, Minnesota.
48. We are 2 away from 50. That's awesome. And like going down the track of that whole long list of awesome episodes that we had lined up, this is, for those of you following the show, the fourth installment of Long Walk Short Drinks Cabin Kids series. And joining us in this episode is Kramms. Kramms, welcome.
I feel like such a little boy with that introduction. Cabin kids.
Yeah, we're all cabin kids. Like, we're all
Are you
happy to
holding
be
me hostage?
You are hostage. We have you hostage for what? Like, well, I'm not going to tell you how long it usually goes.
Oh, God,
We'll just
no.
see how long you can hang.
Yeah.
But thanks for hopping on, Mike. You've come up a lot on the show, and you're often in our hearts and minds. So it's great to have you on,
Thank you.
on the show.
I appreciate being on and talking to you guys.
It's great to have you, buddy. So it's been, oh man, I can't even remember. I know I talked to you since I moved to Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I talked to you around like 2012 or 13, maybe would have been the last time that we talked.
Shit, that's probably right. That's probably right.
And it was like a random like call. You like it just you came up out of the blue and like called and we talked for like an hour and a half on the phone.
I think that's true. I also saw you in Springboro at my brother's house.
That's right. And my wife,
Ash.
I forgot all
You
about
were
that.
fiance then, I think, or
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. Because
Yep.
your brother does still live down in this area, right?
Yes, he does. Yeah, and I think
Awesome.
we hung out then, and we gave each other a humongous hug.
Oh, that's so
And
fantastic.
I hugged her fiance as if I'd known her forever, even though we just met.
Well, that's not the only way to do it, right?
Yeah. I was like, all right, Palmer needs a hugger. This is a
Yep.
good sign.
Yep. Oh yeah, she is definitely a hugger, that's for sure. Dave, how long has it been since you talked to Kramms or seen him?
Not too terribly long. I think the very last time was when you were in Minneapolis for something. I met up with you at a bar with some other colleagues of yours at a conference, I think.
Oh, is that the last time? Okay.
I think so. But then before that,
That's
Sean-
maybe a year and a half ago, or
Yeah, that sounds about right.
yeah. I think that's right. We just met
And
up for a few drinks, and I was with people,
Yeah.
colleagues.
But
is what other people
Prior
call
to
them.
that, you and your lovely wife had come to Northfield, and we sat on the porch where I am now. We made a 10th anniversary edition of your first album. It was very fun. Or we worked on the artwork
yep.
for it.
Yep. Oh, that's where you are. You're on the porch. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was supposed to see you last summer in Cleveland for you too, and I fucked that up royally.
yeah,
for which
yeah.
I apologize.
You guys ended up going to Ireland and some shit.
Yes. And I completely we were working on a couple different shows. I don't know. It all did not. I mean, it ended up working out pretty well for us.
Yeah,
but
no,
it
it's
was,
fine. Yeah.
It just didn't go as I'd hoped it would. It'd be great to see the Joshua Tree tour with you.
Yeah, it would have been awesome. We had a good trip there though too.
Yeah, you got a house in Tremont. It was like when you sent the email, I was literally like, "Oh fuck!" I forgot about the whole thing, and it all flooded back to me. But
We had a house in Tremont that we got on Airbnb and just kind of spent, I think it was 4 or 5 nights, just kind of reliving our like origin tour of our relationship, at least in Cleveland.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, it was our 10th anniversary. So,
oh, congratulations. That's
yeah,
great.
absolutely, man.
yeah. So there are probably more romantic places to be than Cleveland, but for us, it was perfect.
No, that's great. I was just thinking about that those Cleveland days on the few times I was up there. I do remember you always talking about the phenomenon how your beer would always like disappear from the first floor up to the second floor, like as you were going up the stairs. You always you remember that? Like
I don't.
you'd like start the stairs. You're like every time I start the stairs, it's a full beer. By the time I get up to the top, it's like 2/3 of it's gone. Like what the hell happened? I just like went up the stairs.
My alcoholism is yeah. It runs
No,
deep.
there's no. Speaking of which, let's crack a beer open, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got
Sure.
the good old standby.
Oh,
Kramms, what are you drinking?
Sorry. I can't see my camera tonight. I just got a Miller
nice.
Rockin' Miller Light.
I'm very fancy. I've got a Deschutes Mirror Pond Pale Ale.
Nice.
Very
It is,
nice.
yeah. I'm not that snobby, but I saw this and I like it and I deserve it.
That's right. Have at it, man.
So why not, right?
No, exactly. Exactly.
Beautiful.
The motherfucking grown-ups, you get to do whatever you want.
That's right.
All right.
And so,
well,
Kramms, we usually crack one together on
shoot.
air.
Okay.
Are you ready for another? Or do you want to
just double
toast?
fist. Yeah.
I'll just let me grab one. All right.
And we do it on what we on the Palmer's Picks 3, which is basically
Okay, I got
skipping
it.
all the other numbers and just going on 3.
Yeah.
All right, sirs.
I love that we have to it's always makes it sound so much worse when we have to explain it. Like, oh no, but we do it this way, and it's like
That's true. We should probably
we
just do it.
become long walk short drink nerds. Is what we become. Like we sound like the guys that we like make fun of. Like,
What, you don't know
actually-
how we open a beer?
Yeah.
What, you haven't read all the director's commentaries on
Oh,
Long Walk,
shit.
Short Drink?
You don't know all the ins and outs? Oh,
You haven't
all right.
read the Long Walk, Short Drink fan fiction?
It's steamy, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've written half of it. I haven't even listened to most of your stuff, but I've written lots about you guys.
Speculative.
All right, on 3. 3. Awesome.
All right.
All right. And speaking of anniversaries too, today, is it okay to share, Palmer, that today
sure.
is your anniversary?
It is Ash and I's anniversary today. It's our 30th anniversary. It actually it's another huge one. Ash has moved into this was a big milestone for her. She's become my longest relationship.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Nice.
that's a big milestone for me too.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. That's terrific.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
yeah.
So yeah, so that
Congrats,
was
man.
thanks. So we got big plans this weekend. That's why it's okay that I'm recording tonight. Also because I deserve it, right?
That's
I am Palmer.
All right.
And I love myself, and I deserve
And I
a
just
good beer and a good conversation.
right. So we can go to lunch, and we're going out to a cabin this weekend, and it's just gonna be us and Tank and hang out and eat a bunch of cake and eat a bunch of food and be in a cabin. So
Nice.
she had something this evening, so we went to lunch today, and I brought her flowers and cards and all that good stuff.
good man. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, Sarah and I were at a cabin last weekend.
Oh yeah, nice. How'd that go?
Yeah, it It went okay. You asked that like suspiciously. Oh, how'd that go?
No, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that at all. I'm so sorry.
Weekend in a cabin with you fucking degenerate.
No.
No, it was good. We were with two other couple friends of ours.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it was good. It was good.
I actually a lot of coincidences here between anniversaries and you two.
Laugh. It's like I just hear the Kramms laugh is like it's like a laugh track out on it's like always in the back. Like I'm like, this is so fantastic.
Do you remember when
Dave when
you used to be trying out laughs
when Palmer first called me to set up the tech? He called and I answered, and the first at least 20 seconds was just Palmer and me doing our laughs.
It's so true.
And I was like, don't waste it. But then I was like, no, we'll do it. We'll do it again.
Oh man,
Kramms, do you remember back in the day, like 20 years ago, probably you were trying out laughs, or at least maybe it was a little bit you were doing.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I don't.
You found a good one.
I don't know if I ended up. Yeah,
no, it is.
I just ended up going with the default, which is ridiculous, but.
Oh my gosh, I can't handle it.
I wanted to have a cool laugh.
This is plenty cool.
It's totally cool.
All right.
What does a cool laugh even sound like?
My face already hurts, and we still have like 4 hours to go.
Oh God, no!
So,
I thought we were almost done already. It was like I told like a joke. I called up a
George
little bit.
Costanza high note.
Yeah. I'm out.
all right. Well, then let's. So, all right. So, we've already had on Cabin Kid Wise. We've had Twinkie on. We've had Steiner on. We've had Pumps on, and now you. And so, since we've gone through those Cabin Kids, the first time we had Pumps on, Twinkie sent us a list of like questions that we've kind of thought are a good round of questions that keep the conversation going, centered around the cabin, because that's kind of what brought us all together and led ultimately to this show and really reconnected. I mean, like, you know, we're reconnecting right now because of it. So, and we can trace it all the way back to that point in our lives. And so these five or six questions usually lead to a longer conversation, but they're really a good like driving force to step through it. We'll see.
It's like sort of an oral history that we're compiling here. But
exactly.
Oddly enough, it didn't. It came oddly enough, it didn't come from me. I guess was the idea. But I was gonna say that
is weird.
Really, yeah, it was Twinkie's idea really to try to get different perspectives on it, and it's been pretty interesting
and honest perspectives, and because it's like 20 in perspectives 20 years later, you know.
Mm-hmm. So who are the four you've had so far? Twinkie,
Steiner, and Pumps.
Okay,
and then we're gonna have Logan on. He'll be the next cabin kid that we'll have on after you.
Okay.
So I mean, to just steer us through the conversation, and the name of the podcast is Long Walk Short Drink. So there's not a straight line on any of these questions or answers or anything like that. And we'll probably work some of our bits in between asking the questions.
We don't do bits, do we?
No, I mean just like segments. Like we have
a joke.
Oh, okay.
Of course we do bits.
Of course we do.
We're
bits,
terrible people.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just have like for some reason it was like didn't feel as formal as it does right now for all the other ones. So
I have that tendency to make
I don't know why. What's that?
Is there one that leads into like how I can't remember what they are and I don't have them in front of me. Sorry.
Oh,
is there one kind of an introductory one?
Let me see. Yeah. So while I copy these and send them to you both, I'll just ask the first one. So do you recall how you viewed the cabin while you were actively involved in its use? So like think back to like 20 years ago and in that time period leading up to the cabin, like,
well, not just to, so it does seem a little out of the blue in case this is someone's first long walk short drink.
And do that.
The cabin was a place where it was a kind of a standing date where you could go on Friday nights. The three of us and a bunch of other friends could go Friday evenings and know that we would see the people that we wanted to hang out with without having to call or arrange anything. And was a bit of a special place in that, we shared a lot of good times there, and it seems as though we've been trying to return to some semblance of, like, I don't know, this feels like a virtual cabin to me. So it was a special time in our lives. It was about 20 years ago, and this series with Cabin Kids is to talk to people that we knew from back then to get their sort of perspective and share their stories about that time. So, so that was so there was the one official question,
well,
but
let's go back. Let's take a step back from that one and like just think back to like before the cabin. What led you to the cabin? Like, can you talk about like who were you hanging out with? What kind of like what was going on pre-cabin?
No, I mean, I hate Dave because he pretty much answered the first question is I just I felt like I needed a place to belong and a place to be among friends where there wouldn't be any sort of anxiety about having to ask people out or deal with any of that bullshit, where you could just show up and your friends would be there. And I mean, that was pretty much it to me. I mean, and it's that
oh no. He was in mid-thought.
It's like locked up in mid-thought. Oh no.
Looks like just a connection issue maybe.
Yeah. Kramms, if you can hear us, if you mute your camera again, sometimes that helps your bandwidth catch up.
Seemed like a dramatic pause, and then he was gone.
It was like it paused at the perfect moment. Oh, that's crazy.
He's like just secretly, like covertly, he's like, this is not what I wanted. Fuck this.
Yeah. This is not what I signed up for.
I do not.
Fucking guys, how do they fucking sucker me into this every time?
It's weird because his little icon is still there.
Yeah. Let me let me text him. Let's text him. There he goes.
Hey, sorry guys.
That's okay, no problem.
I don't know when you left me, but I just gave the most
I'm sure it was awesome. Like
brilliant outpouring of my soul.
No, you like
about how much I love you guys.
Oh man.
And yeah.
It froze on this perfect, like you were like paused and you had your hands.
Is that when?
And we were both like on bated breath, like yes. And
then I kept talking, and I could see on the video you were both like, and then I was like, wait, are you guys not responding? Yeah, I'm done now.
Oh,
so that's it.
Oh.
No, I guess I can try to answer again.
Well, maybe I can give you a different way in because there's some other stuff that would be nice to know. It's just like how how do we all know each other? I mean, from your perspective, like how did you come to? We talked about when the last time we saw each other was and stuff, but
Yeah, sure.
the cabin didn't sort of spring out of nowhere. It just we did all have some knowledge of each other's existence and we're friends.
Like, well, and I'll give you an example. Like, Pumps talked about how before there was the cabin, he remembers like his earliest memories of of the group that would become the cabin, that would make up the core of the cabin, was like hanging out in your basement.
In my basement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he remembers there was like one thing where like, oh, this person's going to be there and this person's going to be there. And they all like kind of congregated over at your basement. And then so that led to you guys going out and then he like the way he paints the picture, it kind of led to this, there's this linear path. And we're just curious if you kind of see that as the same path, like how it started with, because I know another way that's interesting in the history, that like the way the whole like Smithville group of girls come into play is because one of the things that helped with that was like Senate Bill 140 and us going out to Wayne College and and being out there. And so it's just all these little pieces that, like, how do you see that path that led you to the cabin? Like before that, like who from the cabin were you hanging out with first before there was the cabin?
Okay. Well, I mean, those are two different questions.
Okay.
So I think outside of Twinkie and maybe Bauman, I think I was at the cabin before either of you, for instance.
Yeah.
And it was obviously Hartzler's and Twinkie's cabin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting that much right? Yeah.
And
yeah.
Steiner,
Yeah. There was
Steiner, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Was
There
there
were
a
the four
fourth?
founders.
An acre.
Yeah.
Who the hell's that?
See, like that's how. And this will probably,
I can't picture him.
This will probably make your noodle too. But I did stay at the cabin before it was the cabin.
Oh, and I knew that as well. Yeah. And I think when you came out to the cabin the first time with us, it was based on that connection, was it not?
Yeah, like I came.
Yeah,
out
it wasn't based on being best friends with Dave or me. Or
no, I didn't even know you guys. Like you guys,
yeah.
I was so intimidated because you guys were, and I know this always like blows you guys were like the cool kids. Which see, and I always get that reaction, but like you just didn't know you were the cool kids, and so it was super intimidating. But I like through knowing Steiner, because I was in kindergarten with Steiner, right?
Sure.
And so I remember you guys had the quote unquote graduation party out there, remember, in the like cow pasture. And it wasn't even centered around the cabin. It was centered around that cow pasture. And that was the first time I remember being out there with you guys.
Oh, okay.
And I think the first time that I remember going and doing Gone with the Wind. I remember those were really I remember you guys were doing so much, had already so many routines established, like things that you did as a group established before the cabin. I think that's more what we're going for, is more of those routines, like, gazebos and photography and trespassing and like
when and Kramms and I were
movies and
we were making movies. I mean, Kramms wasn't as, I mean, Jacko and I were making movies together, but Kramms was often in them as early as 1992. And of course, Kramms and Jacko go back probably among the longest relationships.
Yeah, probably back to 85, 84, 85.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, the cabin to me, I remember being invited out by Schwenke and Steiner.
What was your relationship like with them for them to invite you? Just because, I mean, I don't know. That surprises me a little bit for some reason.
Well, I knew Twinkie enough, but we weren't good friends. I wouldn't say at that point. We were acquaintances.
How did you know him? Like, just from being in the same grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, our high school had, 60 whatever people in the class. And,
Yeah.
He was smart and I'm smart and we're both kind of weird and short. And, I mean, it's like, what else do you need? But no, I mean, I wouldn't say we were good friends ever, but we certainly hung out in the same crowds forever. And he was more friends with Bauman, who I would say best friends with. Yeah, so I think they told maybe Bauman and me that they had this cabin that they built and we should hang out. And this was probably winter of our junior year. And yeah,
winter 97.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think he's frozen.
Right. Oh no!
Oh, I got to text him right away.
You got him? Oh, thank you.
While we're waiting for Kramms to rejoin us, let's just go. We might as well go through the litany and stuff, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Jeez.
Are you reading anything that could be linked to Audible trial? Are you listening to anything? Oh, he's back. He left the call.
Oh no, he left the call. Actually, so we can do while we're waiting. You want to jump into a King Corner real quick because
sure.
that ties to.
Yeah.
I haven't started reading it yet, and I would, of course, I'm going to ultimately listen to the audiobook on this. So if you can get it on Audible, I would definitely recommend it. But I just picked this up today.
Oh, is that the new one?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
This is the new Stephen King, The Outsider, that just got released. I told Ash, I was like, there's no reason why I should not have Stephen King first editions from now on.
That's right. I'm Palmer. I deserve it.
That's right.
That's spectacular.
Yeah. So this is I'm looking forward to starting this weekend.
Because you are caught up, right? You're caught up on your. I don't know if we ever really talked about that, but you got all the way through. How many years? Did that take?
It was at least like 4, I think, of doing it all on audio. Yeah, it's outrageous.
That's intense. Yeah. That's very cool. I'm glad you got that. Kramms, we got to find a way to. We tried to let you know as soon as possible that we lost you.
No, yeah. I know, and I don't know what's happening.
It's a mystery, but we'll
I think it knows when I'm starting to say bullshit. when I'm starting to emote anything at all, it's like, nope, check out.
Yep.
Cut them off. No, I mean, the origins of the cabin, I don't know. I mean, fuck it. It's
what how did you come to? So you got invited out by Twinkie, Steiner,
and initially it was kind of weird, and it was a group of people.
Was that party the first time that you were out there in the field? Is that what this invitation was for?
No, this was just like a random night, and
just a random night at the cabin.
Yeah,
got it.
And I mean, it was cold, and there was a fire, and nobody really stayed the night, and most of the people were dipping and probably drinking Bush Light. It was just like it wasn't my scene necessarily. And then I think maybe a couple weeks later, I don't even know if Bauman was there with me. You guys know Bauman? I mean, I know you two do, but do
we talk about it sometimes? Yeah.
Yeah,
he's come up in this context.
They know that the cabin that he exists in this group of cabin kids, and that he is now a member of the church because that came up with Twinkie.
Twinkie did some pretty in-depth and great stuff between Twinkie and Steiner. They talked about that in a way I wasn't expecting. That was pretty cool to hear about.
Yeah, those are 2 really good episodes for that piece of it for sure.
Yeah, fill some stuff in. Oh god damn it! Did we lose him?
Oh, we did. Shit.
Oh,
You texted him this time? You texted him this time?
Yeah, I'll tell him. Shit.
You got any Stephen King stuff? What are you working on right now?
I haven't been. I've still been listening, or I've still been kind of working on my own projects. I've actually been. There's been a lot of days where I haven't had to commute and stuff, but the ones that I have most recently, I have been listening to the WPLMR posts.
Oh, nice.
So halfway through the most recent, which is the second to last, number 7, the Halloween special. But yeah, I've had.
Are you
Cujo.
still digging that? Is it still?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I really enjoy it. It really made me wish like we had talked to Larry, hearing him on number 7.
Yeah.
But and before that was Suds and all the guests and stuff. I've really been enjoying listening to that. So if you can't get enough Palmer, which I'm in that camp, I can tell you where to find some more. You go to Mixcloud, mixcloud.com/DOL records and listen to the WPLMR. We're posting the it was 10 years ago that he had his first podcast, and so I've been posting those in the off weeks from Long Walk Short Drink. So if it's a week where there's no new Long Walk Short Drink, head over to mixcloud.com/DOL records and check out WPLMR.
Or you could go to Twitter and search LWSD at LWSD Pod, because all of those have been tweeted out on our account as well. And while you're over there, make sure you follow us on Twitter and head over to our YouTube page and search Long Walk Short Drink. Subscribe over there. We're getting closer every day to that 100 subscribers on YouTube to get our unique URL. Make sure you also ring the bell so that way you get notified every time we do our live stream recordings like this one, where we record our episodes live on the air, and then Dave trims those down into nice, neat things that end up becoming our actual podcast episodes. Go to Audible Trial /LWSD, like Dave mentioned. Look for The Outsider or any of your other favorite Stephen King books to download your free, sign up for your trial and get your free audiobook download through that. Anything else? I think that's it.
I think that's good. I mean, I also repost
the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting apps.
Yeah, and I do repost the edited video podcasts on YouTube as well.
Yep.
Though I think so, we got Kramms back, thankfully, but I think his camera is eating up some of the bandwidth, so he's going to rocket Sans camera for a while.
Well, the only drawback to this, though, is we'll have no way of knowing when and if you lock up Kramms. So,
yeah.
Well, but I usually
listen
know, I know right away too, because I see you guys.
Oh
up.
yeah.
So, good.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of
having to log out and log back in.
Connecting. Yeah. I'm not sure what the cause is, but
hopefully with your camera off, that sometimes with Moto, he has a spotty connection sometimes where his camera eats up. For some reason, it prioritizes his camera on bandwidth, and then that ends up blocking him out, and so he'll have to mute his camera so that to catch up sometimes.
Moto's my brother, Kramms, and. It's funny the nickname thing. I mean, we'll employ it a lot on the podcast just to help people protect their livelihoods and dignity. I suppose
plausible deniability. We go for that's the best we can promise is plausible deniability.
But the Kramms nickname.
Now.
Oh,
God,
you do?
Well, shit.
That's fantastic.
Congratulations.
He's a tenured cabin kid.
They tell me.
But Kramms is a nickname that goes back to the cabin era. In fact, in the Dreaming Out Loud documentary, there's a discussion of the nicknames where yours is discussed, and Bauman is among the people discussing it, and he says he didn't like it initially. Do you remember the process by which you selected and imposed your nickname upon us?
I didn't impose anything on anybody. First off, so
let's just be clear about that.
So I resigned.
I've set this up well. Go on.
No, I mean you all remember like the early stage of like chat rooms.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, like AOL and
yeah. And I mean, Kramms was born from an early flirtation with a girl, I think from like Wayndale or Norway or or
Somewhere in
something.
Wayne County.
And I referred to her. I shortened her name, and then she responded back to me with a Kramms. She's like, okay,
Oh.
Kramms, and I was like, fuck it, yeah, that's a great name. I like it, and because people called me Kramer and whatever, and people have always inserted an R in my name. I was like, Kramms, I could own that. But it was manufactured in the sense that I did tell Bauman and a couple other friends to like, hey, call me Kramps.
Kramms or the Cram Man is what
Or
Bauman
the
said.
Cram Man. That's how
Yeah.
I remember it. Yeah.
Or Cram Dog.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I did not know that. That's
That's the actual origin.
great.
And I
Wow.
yeah.
See, this is why we do this, because we pull. There's still nuggets to pull out, like new shit to pull out about the cabin.
It is surprising, yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
great. So Twinkie and Steiner invited you. You came out, and there's people drinking Busch Light and dipping chewing tobacco, and we were like, I can't wait to come back here.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and then I invited, Bauman, I think, came out. I think for whatever reason he couldn't come out the first week I was there, and we went out and it competed. Dave, or do we call you Dave on this?
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
Okay.
I never had a nickname. So.
I mean, it competed somewhat with your and my and Jacko's and Pumps' movie night.
That's right. Yep. That came up in Pumps'
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, so there was that tension and but I got you guys to come out, and then I think once I got you guys to come out, it just kind of, there was a momentum of, okay, this is cool, and ultimately, like, the cabin became ours, which ultimately led to tensions of its own.
Yeah.
As you know,
Well covered in Steiner's
yeah,
episode,
and,
especially.
and the Smithville girls and all those flirtations and love interests and ultimately marriages and
Divorces.
and divorces.
Well, singular, but
yeah, and yeah. So I don't know. I mean, for me, it was probably part of trying to branch out a little bit and explore the new friends I was making at Wayne College, including I mean, to be honest, including people from Rittman like Twinkie and Steiner, but also the Smithville people and Hartzler, and it just seemed an exciting thing, and I don't remember exactly when it turned into a thing where it was a weekly thing for all of us. It took a while though.
And
I'm interested in that shift between the initial feeling of this is not my scene to like going back there on purpose and inviting people out. That basically attributed to what you just said, the curiosity or wanting to branch out, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably mostly that. I also really liked the scene and the campfire and all of that, and yeah. But I think partly it was partly a I have my group of friends that I love, and we have a routine, which is great, but maybe we can do something else, and not that I want to, but also in a way where I don't want to leave them. I want to bring them with me as much as I can. I think that really honestly was probably my approach, was at that time where I had I really loved the the Friday night movie nights and all that stuff. And but it's like, okay, this cabin thing, this could be better. It could be something special.
How near was all that to the mass walkout of 7 years of Tibet? Do you remember that? Were you there that night?
I don't think I was there that night.
Oh, really? Okay. Bumps hit me.
Yeah, that was okay. I think that's what I missed.
Okay.
Do you think, because you said
that might have been, I might have been at the cabin.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
actually,
nice.
And I actually think that might have been. Yeah, I think that might be the case.
Wow.
That was just a joke, because Pumps made me aware of something I never really considered too much from anyone else's perspective, which was at that time I was basically picking movies and going to them without ever really talking to anyone else who came along about what they might want to see. So in 7 years of Tibet, everyone stood up but me and just left. It was like this mass row of dudes. It was funny.
What so you mentioned how you could recognize like the potential of you, even then, like you knew, you were like, oh, this has the potential to be something really special back then. Do you think you recognize that, or do you think that in hindsight now you were aware of that, maybe subconsciously?
I mean, I think it's probably hindsight, to be honest, but I liked the place.
Yeah.
I like the freedom it represented, and this place that you could come and just hang out around a campfire. And I wanted more people that I actually really liked to be around with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
What the hindsight question kind of segues into the next question on the list of what are your thoughts, if we haven't already discussed them? What are your feelings about the cabin now, like looking back in that hindsight in 20 years later? Do you have any insights or any new things to add to it, or feelings you might want to change, or
I mean, well, I obviously I think we could have been more respectful for the Hartzler clan,
of course,
and the people who own the land, and
that is a recurring one that comes up actually every time this comes up.
Oh shit, Hadley's Egan.
Nope,
okay.
We got
you. I mean that really is a legitimate regret. That the self-centeredness that we suddenly owned this place, and we could go and party in our way, which wasn't like sex and drugs,
right?
But it was some rock and roll and some. Some just.
There was always potential for drugs because, I mean, Bauman was always down to do heroin.
Bauman was, yeah.
We talked about that a lot, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I do. This is an aside, but if I had a 17-year-old, and thankfully the world, I probably won't ever. But I mean, the notion of them going out to a cabin every Friday night and with who knows who, and just doing whatever they want, like I don't know if I'd be down with that as a parent. And I give my parents credit, I guess, for trusting me in that. But yeah, no, I mean, it's mostly the lack of self-awareness as to the boundaries, but boundaries weren't really our thing at that time.
No. We made well, first off, we always traveled in packs, and we've talked about that already here tonight, about how like it was a group movie night, and then it was a group. We wanted to grow the group at the cabin, and we we always traveled in packs, and we did have a tendency to turn. I mean, gazebos are a prime example of how we just made them ours, right? Like, and I wasn't,
Kramms especially.
Well, that's very true. And that's not even what I was going for. But I mean, I wasn't big in the gazebo scene. That was definitely more you guys before I that was an established thing before I started really hanging out with you guys. But we did have a tendency. The group did have a tendency to kind of take over with this total, like, that's a great way to say it too, like total lack of self-awareness that we were doing.
Like a parasite.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But I don't know what it was, but
a really positive, like non-judgmental one though, like one that
maybe. Yeah. I mean, our you know, this whole thing makes me a little uncomfortable. Actually, the treating the cabin as special, and you know, by extension, us as special makes me a little uncomfortable.
Well, say more about that. I think that might be partly what Twinkie is interested in, getting these different perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, we became very self-indulgent and self-consumed.
Yes,
to some
self-referential.
Yeah. And that's the part I'm probably most, I don't know, ashamed of isn't the right word, because I'm still happy for all the experiences, but I am a little embarrassed by it.
Okay,
that's fair.
But
that's fair.
Maybe that's part of being part of any group, right? Where you identify yourself with a group, and there's a certain amount of irrationalities and a certain amount of passions and a certain amount of exclusion of others. And you can celebrate the togetherness, but also recognize that, you know, there's a cost to the clickiness elements. And I've started to think about, you know, who are the people that we excluded? Who are the people that were maybe on the margins of the cabin group? You know, and that's the sort of stuff I think about when I'm being depressed.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it's you know, high school's tough, and I don't feel like it was as tough for me as others. I got through it okay, but I wonder how much I participated in the exclusion of other people. Like, and you know, just in pop culture, you see cliques, and they're always portrayed as negative because they're always excluding people. They're always celebrating themselves at the expense of other people. And I just wonder about that. Whether there were people at the margins, people who maybe, I can't imagine anybody wanting to be a part of our group, but you know, I mean, it's just, I don't feel like a cool kid. You know, none of us were jocks. I mean, that's the thing. It's
right.
We were freaks and geeks type of thing, but I still wonder about it, especially being an asshole.
Yeah.
like Corey, you know.
You mean you worried you were an asshole to people back then?
I think I'm just I tend to be an asshole. So.
What do you even mean by that?
I don't know. People just tell me I am. Maybe I'm not. Maybe
I don't think you're an asshole.
You guys are my medicine.
Yeah, we are. No, that's all very interesting, and it's hard to. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with any of it. But yeah, as you say, high school, it's hard. Life is hard. So you got to find harbors where you can. And so I probably haven't thought as much about it in as critical a light. And of course, if there's anyone to sort of lionize and kind of, what do you put it up on a pedestal? A lot of the things that I've done over the years to preserve and present that that time as something special is, yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time doing that. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I mean, we're doing it right now. That like we're this initial and just for the record, Kramms too. We've had pumps back on, and like the cabin didn't even come up. It was all we just talked about new stuff. So
No, I'd love to talk.
sort of-
I'd love to talk about like anything. Yeah, Rick and Morty. The Last Jedi.
man.
Like let's.
well, let's get through the questions then for the canon, and
It's
then
like
we
a
can kinda
homework
move on.
assignment.
It is. It is.
Well, there are no wrong answers, obviously. Well, I don't. Do you feel like you answered that first one? Do you recall how you reviewed the cabin when you were actively involved in its use? So more, you just talked about sort of how you could see it now.
Oh
Do you
yeah,
have more
no,
to say
yeah,
about how you saw it then?
and yeah. I mean, at the time it was. At the time we were going there regularly. It was what I looked forward to most. Every week.
Yeah.
And it was the place I felt just at home. And I was excited to, like, I'd be anxious to get there the whole day, the whole Friday. And I'd be just so excited to, grab my camera, grab my 12-pack of Coke, and
Yep.
get in the car and go out onto that path, into that farm, and just walk up that path. And I still remember that path. I still remember every step. I remember the site of the cabin. I can remember where, people were, just starting to start a fire maybe, and the smells. And I still tell stories in class about the mornings where we'd wake up and there'd be cows in the woods, and Bauman would yell at them and throw rocks. I tell that story like all the time in my classes. I don't even know why it would come up, but it does.
That is amazing. So that's a great memory from the cabin. What else?
Well, I mean,
Well, come on, like it's
Celtic.
yeah,
and that hollow sound that they make when the rocks would hit.
yeah, exactly.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know why
I just
Bauman was
remember
so mad
like
at those
how
cows.
much Katie would get so mad at him. Like I think that's the shot in the cabin documentary.
Oh,
It's
there's
like-
in the one video montage. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Chrissy's
the
yelling
one.
at Bauman, and you can literally read her lips to say, "You're evil."
Yeah.
Yeah. He just hated cows. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And he always did. Like that wasn't a new thing to me.
Yeah.
At all.
Really?
No.
That predated the cabin.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What other memories?
hilarious.
Like if the cabin comes up or if it pops into your head, like what kind of memories usually?
Yeah, like specific things like that.
Specific memories. Yeah.
You painted such a
Gosh.
beautiful picture of coming up the path that I'm
Yeah.
wondering what other kinds of specific things
No,
are
but
locked
even
in.
that's a kind of generic one. I remember we had a New Year's Eve party there.
Yeah.
And I remember just the excitement of that because we had alcohol. Which
One
was
of the
very
few times.
Yeah. And I think we had, I don't know, it's the alcohol that tastes like cinnamon or something. It's like an aftershock or after.
Oh, aftershock. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I don't even know if they still
Yeah.
make that. That was the one that had like ice crystals growing or sugar.
Exactly, yeah. And then
Wow.
like a 6-pack of Zima, I think.
I just drank Zima like 2 weeks ago. They
And,
reissued
like-
it. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. I bought it right after they reissued it. And I was so excited at the liquor store here. And the guy knows me very well here, obviously. And I was like, oh my God, Zima. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, and I think he's the same, like similar age to me. And I was like, Zima, fuck yeah. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, like the first time I got drunk was on this stuff. He was like, yeah. And I was like, it's probably terrible, isn't it? He was like, yeah. Yeah. And he let me buy, I think, I don't know, a 6-pack or 12-pack, and it sat in my fridge for however many months because it is terrible.
It is terrible. We got a 6-pack in our beer store. When we got it, gave us a handful of Jolly Ranchers with it.
Oh yeah,
they keep them behind the counter just for it. And then Ash and I day drink, and so we day drink and drank those.
Yeah. No, that's
so funny.
how it ended
I
up.
can literally picture 2 photographs of Jacko. 1 with a Jolly Rancher, 2 drinking a Zima.
Oh, really?
It's funny. They're separated by probably 5 years, but
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
sorry. Odd interjection.
Yeah, but I remember having a that was a moment of I'm trying to protect identities, I guess, because you guys seem into that.
Just use cabin nicknames.
But I had
names are good. I can
had
also bleep stuff.
I had a love interest of the time, and that was a time where we had our maybe first serious kind of conversation about things.
At the cabin?
Yeah.
Like in the field surrounding the cabin kind of thing?
No, we were up in the loft.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a very private area. I spent very little time up there. I almost never slept at the cabin. I would always go home in the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah, no, I mean nobody else was up there. I mean, this was still pretty early in the evening, but
Oh. Well, tell us as much about that as you feel like. That's intriguing.
I don't know.
And Dave can beep if you say names that you don't feel comfortable, like Dave can beep it out.
Yeah, just say it after, like beep
Yeah.
that or whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So, I'm trying to think of a nickname. Yeah, no, I mean yeah. So this is awkward all of a sudden.
You could just say my girlfriend at the time.
No, she wasn't
That's
a
long.
girlfriend. It was a
Oh,
friend.
no. Oh, okay, so there was a burgeoning romance. I see.
Yeah.
Or
potentially.
wait. Okay, never mind. That's tricky because I'm not even sure I know what it is now. I've narrowed it down, but
Okay, who do you think it is? 'Cause you can bleep out your own.
well, I thought it was, but now I'm thinking maybe. So,
Yes.
Okay, that's
All right, so those are beeped. We'll beep those.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm extra interested now. He says slurred a little bit. Oh.
Yeah. I'm
All right.
I'm
Well,
on my 3rd beer, so
Well, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, that's a specific memory. I mean, obviously, that's not a dominant memory. But most of my memories kind of cloud together.
yeah.
I mean, I have tons of memories of just sitting around laughing and talking and playing music and watching Dave play Pearl Jam and and Logan on the bongos. Yeah, I mean, obviously the cabin concert.
yeah, we're coming up on 20 years ago in July. You debuted Weird Kid in the Corner, your first composition.
Oh God,
no?
is that was the debut?
Yeah.
I think so, right? Because
Yeah.
Bauman was on guitar, and you
Yeah.
were.
He was. I didn't even play guitar. Yeah. And I sang Footsteps, I think.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
I
and
played guitar for
yeah,
that.
one of the best renditions
And you play
of
guitar for
Footsteps
that.
I've ever seen.
You're
That was a
insane.
good one.
No, that was so good. That's so
Oh, that's
awesome.
good. I remember doing that for the first time with you, playing that Pearl Jam song, sitting in the back of someone's trunk, and
Oh yeah.
There's
That
a
was
photograph of it.
that was at the cabin as well. That was a party at the cabin.
yeah, but like down by the barns.
Right, exactly. That was a party like that Harshler hosted, or
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Because
so
there was
it
way
was
more of
mostly-
that
yeah.
contingent.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was like around this time of year. Like maybe a graduation party or
Yeah, that was the first time I remember really being out there with you guys.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep.
Because Steiner invited me out. He's like, "There's going to be a huge party out there this weekend because it's a graduation weekend. And I remember, and again, that night, like nobody ended up, like the cabin wasn't the center. It was like everybody was out in the cow pasture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So how,
And I also remember all the times walking to the pits.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the pits. Have we detailed what the pits are? How would you describe that?
Well, it's a gravel mine, gravel pit.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually talk about this all the time in my environmental law classes.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. How so?
because it's just terrible to be hanging around all these machines, and especially swimming in the waters and whatever. Although we didn't do that,
No.
but
I was gonna
I
say I don't remember.
but I did as a kid.
What?
Yeah. I have memories of swimming out in those pits, like as like a swimming hole.
Whoa.
That just blows my mind. Like how did you get to the pits as a kid? To swim in them? That's amazing.
Well, one of was one of my babysitters.
Oh, gotcha. That makes sense.
We're gonna bleep that out too, or no? No, it doesn't matter.
We can. I mean,
Yeah.
It's up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we'd play out there. Yeah, and yeah. But yeah, playing like just the hikes out there and the sense of adventure, and I mean, Dave, how much, especially Jackson and I, loved like abandoned stuff.
yeah. Tell us more about that.
So just that part of it was exciting, and so one of the movie nights, in Farallon, I think this was pre-cabin, or maybe it slightly overlapped with the cabin. I think it's probably pre-cabin, where we went to. It was Dave and Jackson and Roe.
Oh, that's right.
Pharaoh and I
That's right.
went to an abandoned hotel in
That's
Farallon.
4/5 of Steve right there.
Yeah,
Wow.
and we went to an abandoned hotel in Farallon, and there was an empty pool, and it was also exciting. So we were just playing around in the stuff, and Dave had no interest in it at all.
No.
He was like, "This is a bad idea," and so we're all playing around, jacking around, and I think Jackson was taking pictures, and the police come. And they see Dave standing out there, of course.
I was a very conspicuous looking person. There's photos from that night, and I was wearing like a 1940s. It was a Goodwill coat. It was like a what do you call them?
Yeah.
Like it's like a wool, almost ankle length winter coat. And I had long like Kenny G hair, and I think I was just like, when the cops came up, I was trying to walk a different direction so that I guess hopefully it wouldn't call attention to my friends. But I don't remember much about it, other than I remember two things. I remember the cop asking me if I had recently gotten in a fight, like if I was, or like why I would be out wandering around like this in this abandoned place. And then I remember Jacko's I remember everyone having to come out of this pool area.
Well, no, I mean, okay.
shamefully.
So from the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
So we're all in the pool, and we all jump down, and we're all laying flat in this pool when we see the cops come up.
You were like laying on your bellies or your back?
Yeah, on our bellies. And then we can kind of hear Dave talking to the cops, and we're kind of hoping he tells them nothing's going on here, officer. Like,
Yeah.
go along on your business, and maybe he takes a puff on a cigarette or something, and I'm just walking by a pool. What's your deal? Yeah. Instead, it's like suddenly there are just flashlights, and they're like, "Okay, gentlemen," and me and Ro are laying together, and we're just like, "What do we do? Do we make a run for it?
Do we make a run for it?
Yeah." And ultimately, yeah, we all just like get up and brush ourselves off as if nothing happened. Like, oh, here we are. Oh, hey, there you are. Yeah, sorry, this is some misunderstanding. But then they're asking what we were doing, and Jackson had the famous line of, "Well, basically, officer, I just really like to take pictures."
Because that explains it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
With Thoreau and me laughing as he said it.
Well, what's worse too is that was the second time that evening that they probably those same officers came upon us in this like short,
Right,
in this
exactly, yeah.
small area. They're like,
Where
if
were
we
we
see you
before
again, we were on a bulldozer behind the movie
That's
theater.
right. That was the same night.
Oh
Yeah,
my
we're on a bulldozer.
goodness.
Yeah.
We got a picture of that.
Dave, there was a point where you were just like, I'm not trespassing anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like you finally just like put your foot down and you're like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, I was an albatross around their efforts and just not happy about it. So I'm going to tweet out when this episode that photo of us on the bulldozer, and then the photo that I remember we would call Dave's last stand, which not only would we trespass and stuff with all these photo outings, there were often costumes involved.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So in Dave's last stand, I'm wearing a white cowboy shirt and a white cowboy hat and sitting on a train car, an abandoned train car, or at least an inactive train car. Yeah. What
And like Norton or Barberton or something.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Tell us more about that time, because you and Jacko are both getting into photography around this point, right? And this was kind of vehicles for you guys to try out taking photos.
Yes.
Or was it just Jackson? Like, how did? Because we've talked about as we call it the book of photos from around this time that we
Have you talked
assembled.
about that? Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is still this little. I mean, yeah, it's a podcast we share with whoever will listen, but it's generally just the kind of echo chamber of cabin kids. I think.
I don't know. You guys have gotten a lot of listens on some of them.
I wonder what the folks might think of. Well, that's been kind of interesting as well, is the little feedback we've heard from people who we didn't know at the time seem to respond very positively or to this sort of cabin idea.
Oh,
and
shit.
everyone
Okay.
has their own kind of cabin, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it becomes a bit of a vehicle. Yeah. It's funny today, this is a little, I mean, it's off topic from the book, but not otherwise. So, the bride has this cousin who took a strong liking to my music. He lives out in California, but he's this wonderful guy. Actually, you might remember him. Both of you would probably remember him from our wedding, because he's a huge, like, bodybuilder looking dude. So, and he danced a lot. So people would call him, we talked to people from that day and they're like, oh yeah, like Captain Fantastic or whatever. But so this dude, this magnificent human being who loves like 80s hair metal bands and has this tremendous capacity for joy, will, I don't know, once a month at least, send some video of him sitting in LA traffic listening to my music and like singing along. And today he sent me this video where there's a song I have. It's called Maytime, and it's a little there's a section. The bridge of it is all Cabin Kid stuff, like using Cabin Kid names, and he's just like belting it out in this video, singing. He's singing Kramms, singing Palmer, he's singing all these names.
Yeah.
And obviously he doesn't know you guys, but for some reason that really resonates with him, because I think everybody probably has some version of that experience, which has been nice to realize through this, and then also have an excuse to kind of relive those moments
and
for ourselves.
One of what we call the LWSD cast, Double D, who is a colleague that I worked with at a previous job. He always talks about how he loves these episodes because he had the same kind of thing with his friend.
Oh, good.
And just to hear a different perspective of it, and to get to know, people a little bit better through their past and all that kind of stuff. So these definitely they have a place. As uncomfortable as it is to revisit sometimes, like, there's definitely a place for this revisiting.
No, I mean it's definitely comfortable, and my answer earlier about my discomfort, about the sort of self-referential, the clickiness of it. I mean, I think it's uncomfortable for anybody to revisit their adolescence,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely.
But I think the cabin represents to me where I was like not the odd person out, right?
Right.
Where I wasn't the in terms of like teen movies where the protagonist is the person who is the outcast and who doesn't have a group of friends. So it does make me think that okay, I did have this group.
Yep.
And in that sense I was in the in group, and were there people on the out?
Yeah.
Were there people that I made fun of? And there were, right?
Well,
Were there people we excluded? And I think there were, even though we were the freaks and the geeks,
right.
so to speak.
I think though that I think if any group of people, it's very easy for that group of people to become insular.
Yeah.
And I think it's very easy for that group to be able to make in retrospect, to be able to look back and be like, wow, we did this or that, we left these people out, or I don't think anything that I think the other thing I guess from my take of it, I never felt, as somebody who was not a part of the group that was already like quote unquote established before the cabin happened.
Yeah.
Because there was definitely a group of friends that existed prior to the cabin. And
Sure.
I definitely did not. I can say that as I agree with you. There were definitely the disrespect of kind of taking over that place is something I have, even through this podcast, like had to come to terms with. Like that's something that I never even in my adulthood had not considered fully. And what that took for Hartzler, the day that he told us that we weren't allowed, that this was the last cabin night.
Oh yeah, we thought it was the biggest fucking slap in the face. He was the biggest asshole ever.
Yeah,
but then it's like a year later, we're like,
yeah. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I can
we still resent him for it because
yeah.
So that.
But so I think it's really easy. I mean, of course, you want to be like, yeah, no, I was the dick in that. I was totally the dick in that situation. But we weren't. I don't think it ever came from. It was so refreshing to just be included in a group of people that you could sing in front of, and you could be silly with, and you could like. Mm-hmm. I didn't know any other groups of people that were going out in costumes and taking in that, like, were passionate about photography and like doing the, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah. Yeah.
So
can I ask you two a question?
Sure.
Of course.
Have you had a group where you've been able to duplicate that?
Not even close. No.
Yeah, Dave first. Yeah.
Absolutely not. No. And I think that's a big part of why I have put so much effort into kind of, making the things that I made surrounding and documenting the group going back to 20 years ago. Uh-huh. Because I was I don't think I really felt I didn't feel terrible about it, but because I have a kind of a solitary default, and I tend to sort of isolate and be happy on my own, I guess. This being included in this group, and really, like, I did know a lot of these other people, but that time, especially with like the movie nights and stuff, and kind of having my circle of friends expand in a meaningful way beyond just Jacko, was great. And as it continued to grow, I mean, I literally married a cabin kid, and it was it was. I mean, it was really transformative for me to be accepted in that way. And I have never come close to making to having friendships that sort of measure up in that way. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it is just age and circumstance, but the other thing too is that and that's one of the reasons that this all persists, in that I still gain sort of strength, solace, and comfort from that time, and just realizing that it's this kind of emotional inertia of those relationships, whether it be that kind that's stagnant or moves forward. I still think of all those people as my best friends, even if I don't see them. So I've never, the direct answer is I've never come close to forming any kind of similar groups. What about you, Palmer?
The closest thing would be the group of colleagues that I formed at that job where I met Double D. Like I'm still on like we have a group thread of that group of friends that came out of that job that we still communicate regularly and make it a point to see each other when we can. Like Stan the Man was a part of that group, and when I was going through all this shit with my job and everything, and like he knew like shit was bad, like he drove across the state to come hang out with me for the day, that would be the closest. I know all of those people, there's not one person in that group of friends that, just like with the cabin kids, that I know I could go 3 years without talking to them, and then we could go out and spend the next 24 hours like we had been next door neighbors for those 3 years that we hadn't talked, but I'm like you, Dave, where I can't look back on those times without looking on them fondly. I can definitely look back at them with my adult lens and say like, maybe those weren't some of the best choices. And, but it's still like I still consider all of those people to be the most influential and dearest group of people to me. So I guess again, I guess the short answer is not close. Like, no, and I think that's where, like, Twinkie came from with these questions. 'Cause I think that's the same for him. Pumps had a pretty good, he said, and rightfully so, like his military friends that he's been to war with, like they are definitely, he definitely knows that they're there. So that experience is for sure. Steiner, same thing though, said not a group of people since then. So I think that's the curiosity that really sparks these conversations, is why do we keep looking back at that group, and what was it about? Like maybe in our adulthood, we're 20 years away from that. So maybe now we're in this, like, we're in the like early stages of desperation, trying to grasp onto that or maybe rekindle some of those things. But that's too malicious for me. I definitely see this as all like, this is great. Like, this is exciting for me.
I mean, it's something to have something to try to rekindle, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And to have something to look back onto. There are a lot of people who don't have that from their high school.
Absolutely.
Experience. Sarah doesn't have that same connection with her high school friends. She had friends in high school, but she doesn't really understand this, right? And this dynamic that we have. So yeah, I mean, not everybody has that. Some people kind of remain alone, and they make their friends when they leave high school, whether it's in college or whether it's in their work or whatever. And I think it's special that we were as close as we were.
Yeah.
And even Palmer, I mean, we've gone how many years without talking? 5 years without talking?
Yeah, I guess your brother's
6.
house would have been the last time. So that would have been 2013 at the best. So
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. And you called me and we were just immediately like back at the cabin as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Immediately laughing and
right back to that picture of right outside Chrissy and Aaron's house. I always come back to that picture of us. Like,
don't bring up Chrissy.
yeah.
But yeah.
What's that?
Don't bring up Chrissy.
I'm sorry. Sorry, that's twice we brought her up. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm over it mostly.
I'm gonna grab that picture at the break. That's a
What is the picture?
A great picture. It's the picture of the two of you standing together. It's really beautiful.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It's like really harsh lighting from overhead because it's like that. But yeah.
Oh, at Chrissy's, that's when she had the party.
Yep.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
We always said because we were the same person. It's just that you were like I was twice. I was two of you. You know what I mean? That was all. Joke. I'm like 3 times you. There's 3 of you. But
I regret the fat jokes too.
Oh, there's no. You guys get away with it. Nobody else can do that. I'll kick anybody else's ass who does that shit.
Kick everyone's ass in this room.
Oh yeah, I can't hardly wait. We got to talk about can't hardly wait.
Well, no, I so just to answer that question that I asked, which I appreciate your guys' answer. I've had really good friends. I didn't really have good friends in college at all, partly because of you guys. And partly because I was dating somebody the whole time, right?
Yeah.
But in law school, Dave met a lot of my friends.
Yeah. Kramms had we were both in North Carolina at the same time, so I did get to meet some of the other people he was hanging around with. And you had a large circle of friends. Well, I mean, a few core ones, but like the parties were large, and it seemed like you were pretty well integrated.
Yeah, and I've kept contact with them, and that's great. But we've kind of, outside, after a year or two and going to their weddings and whatever. I mean, we've pretty much lost contact outside of Facebook, and it is what it is. It's then I had a good group of friends in Nebraska when I lived there, and that's probably the closest I've come to you guys. But again, it's just different. It's different making friends once people have already formed their identity.
Yeah.
Once people have already decided who they are, like it's great to have friends, and we need friends, and I love them, and I love the people I got to know in Lincoln, Nebraska, and they're some of my best friends. And Dave and I, the last time we hung out was when I was hanging out with a couple of them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Up in St. Paul. So I mean, it's I'll keep in contact with them forever, and I hope to keep involved. But I was just this last weekend. We were hanging out with one of our friends whose husband was out of state for work, and Sarah and I invited her out for a drink, and it was almost awkward because I told her, I was like, I think you're a real friend. And she kind of looked at us weird at first, and Sarah looked at me like, what are you doing? You're gonna freak the person out or whatever. I was like, I was just like, it's so bizarre to form real friendships at this age, once you're past 30 or whatever it is. And I was like, I feel like you and your husband are real friends of ours. And I want you to know that. And I was drinking absinthe, of course, at the time. But I don't regret any of that. I might regret some things that came after, but but no, I mean, I just wanted to say it because it's, you have friends of convenience at this age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's, and obviously to some degree, that's what we were, right? We wouldn't have known each other if we weren't stuck in this hellhole of a town. In a hellhole of a place, right? But we also we became parts of each other's identities, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, big time.
And that you can't replace that. You can't do away with that. And so that's, I mean, I love you guys forever, and nobody can replace that. Just based on the circumstance.
We love you too. That reminds me of this story that I have told before in the podcast, but I guess I think about it most around Cabin Geek Conversations, was something I experienced just a few years ago at my sister's wedding, where my dad was in the presence of friends of his that he knew probably in his, honestly, it was a little bit younger than we are right now.
Okay.
So it's not the same period in his life. But my dad has had many decades of intense medical troubles, and in a lot of ways he's really struggled, and it was very interesting for me to see him with his friends from 20, 30 years ago. There was this spark that rekindled, and I realized that being around them made him remember who he was to them, and sort of helped him remember a part of himself that maybe he hadn't been tending to, and I think, I always seriously valued this group of friends. I mean, hopefully I did at the time. I think I did because of my obsessive documenting of everything. I wouldn't have been doing that about something I didn't enjoy. But
you love the documenting itself, but
yeah. And I loved making stuff with friends even prior to the cabin. And honestly, that's a big part of, I feel like, how Kramms and I bonded at that time, and even over the years. Like, he made stuff with me, which I really appreciate. I got a little lost in that, but
you're telling the story about your dad and his friends.
I mean, for me, there was a period where I might have been, more of my energy was focused on my relationship with the bride, and kind of playing music constantly and stuff, and there was never I never lost sight of this sort of view of those people that we're talking about, but there definitely, I experienced something when I moved west here to Minnesota, where in Ohio, there would always be a little contingent of cabin kids, at least passing through now and again.
Yeah.
And it was easier to somehow stay in touch. But I think something about being completely removed from all that really helped me put it into this stark relief, where I was like, oh, those relationships, those are sacred, and I need to work to preserve them. And so, I could do a way better job of that than I do now, but I have made an effort over the last few years to at least try to facilitate some of those things, and it's been very rewarding because I think of two things in that whole. So I think of the thing about my dad. I also think of this song that was on the radio a lot or on a compilation I had and on the radio sometimes. It was this series of advice. Do you remember this, Kramms? It was like, ladies and gentlemen of the class of 1997, wear sunscreen.
Oh, yeah, the sunscreen song. Yeah.
The sunscreen song.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So there's a line in that I think about all the time. There's actually several, but the one that relates to this is something to do with remember the people that you knew when you were young, and friendships come and go, but certain bonds are sort of, I can't remember how it's phrased. But I guess the end of it is or the end of the rhyme of that friendship thing is, because the older you get, the more you need the people who knew you when you were young. And I think I was struck by that even at the time, 20 years ago. But it's only become more resonant over time, and I guess it's a pretty pertinent to all the things we're talking about tonight. I could use another beer. I know there's a few questions left. I'd love to get Kramms' camera back on, just even if only for a few minutes. What do you guys think? You up for like a short break and maybe continuing?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a
break.
Let's take a pee break, and then.
I didn't know we were allowed pee breaks. I was peeing into a bottle this whole time.
Oh no, shit! Yeah, no, no pee breaks for sure. All
right,
we could tease the question maybe, Kramms, so you can be thinking about it.
Well, we've covered. Actually, this has been an absolutely amazing conversation because we've covered a lot of these indirectly. So. Yeah. So what kind of effects do you experience? Do your experiences at the cabin have on you as you continue down your path? So one of the things you alluded to is like how it made it hard for you to make friends in college. I guess expounding more on that as you continue down your path after the cabin, anything that it might have helped shape or decisions that it might have helped make or influenced, I guess, is something to consider. Let's just tease them all, and then we'll have a more organic conversation, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Not the last one though. The last one's so specific.
Yeah, no, we'll save we'll save that one for the wrap up. And then did the cabin help shape any political, social, or religious views for you?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. And
that one really sticks out with the Twinkie for me. It's like, oh wow, that's.
And then
I'd love to hear Bauman's take on that.
Yeah. Oh man.
We have talked about. You can talk about some of that. He doesn't listen.
I can.
So.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I think where Twinkie was coming from, and that has definitely come up. I mean, the whole the church thing.
I mean, I wrote an album about Bauman, so
I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I would love to hear about that too. Actually. And then in this one, we have already. I feel like we've already kind of touched on this one. You find it easier to reconnect with the cabin kids after a period of time than other people. So, and that's kind of what we just talked about. So, really, it's those other ones. Is just like how did the cabin influence
everybody
you?
but Pumps? He's an asshole. No, I'm kidding.
Pumps does listen, by the way.
Yeah, but this is all off the record. I thought.
No.
Understand that friends come and go, but with a precious few, you should hold on. Work hard to bridge the gaps in geography and lifestyle, because the older you get, the more you need the people you knew when you were young.
God, look at those fuckers.
I know.
Show that again. I think I was wearing a leather jacket and a Super Mario t-shirt.
Yeah. That's right. We all had those leather jackets at the time.
That's my overshirt look too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
I always had an overshirt look.
That was outside Chrissy's. And that was the Heidi.
My gosh, Heidi. You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I've been I have these small VHS tapes that are right around this time period. I was gonna try to I digitized them. I was gonna maybe look at them on the 20th anniversary there, when it was. Those are all coming up. I think the first one is in late May, and I was like, I've gone back and forth as to whether or not I'll really do it. But that's one of them. That party, and Marv is kind of spooning Heidi and getting a little lascivious.
Mm-hmm. A little bit, yeah. I mean, that party got a little bit rapey.
Oh.
Well, but I mean, generally for a group, we didn't get rapey, right?
Definitely not. No.
I mean, I think that's one thing I'm really proud of. I mean, all these shows about adolescence and the Me Too movement and like all this stuff. It's just like I've never been rapey. And I've never been friends. I've never covered up for people who are rapey.
Huh?
Yeah, we've dodged that bullet, thankfully, in terms of our associations, etc.
I mean, there are a couple exceptions for me, but I won't get into that. And those exceptions aren't me; they're associations. No, I mean that party at Chrissy's was, I don't know, and
that was only like the third time I can remember there being booze involved.
Yeah, and there was sex in the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I thought it was I like in hindsight, it's always funny to me that we had all these opportunities every Friday to have booze out at the cabin.
Sure.
And we waited for Chrissy and Aaron's parents to be out of town, and then we went to their house and drank booze. It's like
we could have done that at the
so much at the cabin.
No, we did. Yeah.
And we didn't. And that's something that I always, whenever I do talk about the cabin and it comes up with people, which, and I agree, most of the people I encounter they don't have this experience with people that they went to high school with. So when I talk about it, I always have to stress, like, but we didn't do drugs or drink. Like, that wasn't a big center of our, our group mentality. Right. So, which I mean, if anything comes out of as far as like positivity comes out of the cabin, it's that we had as much fun as we had without doing a lot of drugs and alcohol. So,
well, yeah. And I mean, so much of the benefit you get at that age from drugs and alcohol is what the excitement, the liberation, the being freed from whatever your constraints are. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, I didn't need that on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
That said, when the opportunities were like right there, I wasn't going to turn down a 6-pack of Zima.
Nope. Hell no.
And I would drink the shit out of that. I would pop the Jolly Rancher straight in my mouth and suck on it.
It's funny. I hadn't thought about this prior to tonight, but I feel like some of the that self-reverential thing and I feel like it's a little bit tied up with that confidence. Like we would really before. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of photos being taken. Eventually, there was videos and stuff, but there was a lot of just like celebrating each other for our eccentricities. You know what I mean? Like there were big personalities too. So like Jacko and Pumps, and I mean all of us in some ways, and could have big personalities. And I don't know. Yeah, there was a lot of. We would really bolster each other up and like kind of play up each other's things. Like I don't know how else to say it, but I mean, like for me, I guess playing music, I didn't know, I was socially awkward and didn't know how to integrate into a situation like that. So I'd come out there and sing Pearl Jam covers, but it was great because people praised me for it, you know, and it gave me like a place to be and feel valued.
Right.
But I definitely
People
remember
celebrated parts of you that you hadn't felt worthy of celebration before, or
Right.
yeah, and no, I think that's right. I mean, I think that's why we became so weird.
Yeah.
exactly.
No, but I mean, there was
We celebrated the weirdness.
I mean, I'm not going to say I was completely open with anybody ever, you know. No, I mean that.
Yeah, I know you do. That's why it's funny.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I don't know if it's funny, but it's.
But you know, it's a group dynamic where you're in a group where it's revealed that somebody does something and is into something, and it's like, okay, well, I'll support that, and I'm kind of into that a little bit too, and you support that, and then you reveal that you're actually whatever, and yeah, I mean, it leads to, you know, us going down to Worcester in costumes and and doing whatever, and yeah, no, I mean,
Humping gazebos.
and yeah, yeah, no, I mean, it's and none of us are, and we're all pretty goddamn normal, to be honest.
Right.
Is the irony in it? I mean, really.
Well,
I mean, when
yes
you
and
look
no.
at
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I mean,
when you look at us,
that's
we're pretty
relative.
goddamn normal. I mean, look at what we're doing. Look at who we are. I mean, we're white men from like goddamn Ohio.
Yep.
And like, you know, stupid little town that doesn't mean anything, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, we can be eccentric and we all have our personalities and all that, but really we're pretty goddamn normal.
Yeah. Do you think do you think it was because the town was actually abnormal? Like I understand what you're saying. And I agree, because like the more exposure I have to the greater world, I can see those, what we perceived as being eccentric was just because that didn't fit into the culture that we were growing up in.
Yeah.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interject there.
No, I thought you
What
had.
is normal about this? What? That's 1, 2 pictures. What's going on there? How the hell is that normal? What are you doing to those gazebos?
I love, yeah.
That's
I don't
only for
know.
our YouTube viewers. I'll not tweet those.
But no, I mean, yeah. People,
So
high school kids go into gazebo, and one of them, and all of them. I mean, there's a rape culture element to this as well, right?
and this is leading to how the cabin shaped your political, social, religious views, as well. So
Now I feel the need to clarify for people who don't watch on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, please do. But if you're not, I just showed pictures that Kramms used to like jump up on gazebos and pretend to hump them. So it's not anything truly sinister. It's just something he did to amuse us.
and they all had female names.
Yeah, and you guys called them by names, and yeah.
Yeah, all like
You guys!
supermodels.
I never. It was mostly you all and Bauman.
Oh no!
I don't think I purchased. I don't think I.
Well,
named
first
people.
off, I already established I was not a part of the gazebo group.
Okay, right.
Formally.
Okay, Dave.
I'm sure I participated. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. It was mostly Bauman, probably, and Corey.
Yeah.
I think I remember them debating as to what the names were. So
I do remember that Bauman felt, because some of them were
yeah.
like
So
Naomi.
what were they like? Naomi was like Medina or something, or
That sounds right. And Janet, I think for Janet
Janet
Jackson.
was. Janet was Janet Worcester? No.
That's what I feel like it was Worcester. Yeah,
It was,
But
it was.
I remember the debate was that like that had to be the best gazebo because Worcester was the best gazebo, so that had to be the hottest.
It was the best gazebo. There was no debate about that.
What was the Sharon Center one? What was that gazebo's name?
God, I feel bad.
Me too, because for some reason I remember those other two names. They're even on those VHS-C tapes that I
Because
found.
the ones we went to most were Worcester and the one in Montrose.
Yeah.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
That was something that predated the cabin.
Right, and we had
through the book.
sherbet there all the time.
We had sherbet, yeah.
That was from the movie. I mean, the gazebo thing. So we always respected the traditions.
Yeah, that was.
We never left them.
Yeah, we definitely like ritual.
Yeah.
There's so many. Okay, we can't quite go through the book. We'll be here all night. But so what was that question you were? That was the religion one.
That I
There
was
is
dodging.
Yeah, like how did
there's a
the
chapter in
cabin
the
shape-
book that
Your-
No,
says
there was no question yet. Actually,
The question was
love, sex, religion, and you too.
Yeah.
nice.
What kind of a
Oh God, from the book.
yeah?
Yes, sir.
God, that's so obnoxious.
Did the cabin help
I
shape
think I
any
threw out my
political,
book.
social,
Oh, that's
social, or
sad.
religious views? Yeah, that is sad. Threw it out.
I have a digital version that I'll send you if you can shape
I think
up.
I did too. I wouldn't have thrown it out if I did. No, I think I still have the book. You can't see because you don't have video, but I've got Palmer's Picks and Dreaming Out Loud VHSs and
Oh, that's awesome.
Delightful. It's my life's
Mind
work.
Mind of Philip right there.
Yes.
Mind of Philip is sitting there. Gee. Hey, do you have? This is a great question because I can't find it. You helped me mix down the last of the WPLMR mix CDs before it was a podcast.
fuck. Yeah, I remember that.
The fourth one, or the third or fourth one, and it had a Tool song on it because I came to your house in Cleveland to mix it down.
Yeah.
If
I remember
you,
that.
If you run across a hard copy of that somewhere, rip that, and
Okay.
I can give you a share drive that you can drop that in.
Okay.
I can't find that in any of my files. That's like
I
the
doubt I
lost
do.
mix CD. Yeah,
I doubt I do, but if I'll look for it.
yeah, that would be amazing. So, what? Sorry, sidebar there. So, did the cabin help shape any political or social or religious views later in life? In your opinion?
Yes.
Short answer, yes. Right?
Yes, but also no. I mean, gosh, that's tough to say. As to religion, I think that's the easiest for me to answer.
Okay.
Also, really difficult. That's a time where I was struggling with the existence of God, with what the meaning of life is, and all that shit. And the cabin didn't answer any of those questions, right? The cabin just told me there were other people struggling with the same shit. Right, we're all bags of cells and fat, that somehow have sentience.
Right.
I mean, really, and
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
and and that struggle, and I think we all came there because we want more meaning, and in a way we got more meaning from it, but it wasn't from God in any way, right? It's from love, right?
Yep.
And I've been, ever since, I've been still searching for God. I continue to long to have a relationship with a creator, with God, to know that there's some grand meaning. And it's not, I mean, I haven't found it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but the closest I've come is in my relationship with my wife and my dog right now. But also right with you, Rejax, right?
Yeah.
But it's in love, right?
Yep.
And I don't, and what that means for religion, I was agnostic, but maybe not as firmly agnostic when I started going to the cabin, and however many thousands of alcohol units later, and and nights and tears and whatever, like I'm still at the same place. So yeah. So as far as religion, it didn't cause anything for me.
Okay.
I'm still on the same path I was probably on. As to politics, I don't know. I think at the time I didn't know what politics meant. And we didn't talk about politics. And I had a pretty probably typical white male perspective on things, and didn't understand the notions of privilege and patriarchy and all that stuff in class and anything. So, and we didn't talk about any of that in the cabin, as far as I remember. Or do you remember differently?
I remember you and Bauman talking a lot of philosophy.
You do.
A lot of you guys really idolized Weinstein at
Weinstein. Yep. Yeah. He's
at
still
Wayne College. So a lot of humanities talk.
Uh-huh.
I mean that's probably the extent of it. I mean I remember I took a class from Weinstein because of how he was almost on a pedestal with you guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the class for sure.
But he didn't live up to the billing.
No, I don't think that. I not necessarily that. I'm just saying. I definitely remember that being a big. When it did come up like that, that was a big conversation piece between you and Bauman. So I know there was definitely a lot of higher thought. And that was one of the things that really drew me to that group of people. Nothing was very basal. We looked very basal on when from initially, right?
Yeah.
A lot of laughing, a lot of goofing off, a lot of humping gazebos, right?
A lot of 70s leather jackets.
Yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff. And and I think that the periphery or the fringe that you might have talked to, or even just the casual observer, I could see where it would be very easy where that's what you would take away from the group. But nobody was there. Only the group was there at 3 a.m. at the cabin on a Friday night.
Right.
When we literally, I remember literally having conversations about I know it's a euphemism, but we really were talking about solving the world's problems. you know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, Palmer. I mean, one of the lasting memories that I have from the cabin was I think the last cabin night. And it was when I first came back for the summer from being in Wyoming, and it was Hartzler had come out. It was like, you guys aren't allowed here anymore. And you and Logan and Dan and I stayed up all night just talking. Do you remember that?
I vaguely
And Katie was there.
Yep.
Other people were there, but the four of us stayed up all night.
Yeah.
Talking and you know, that's the type of stuff we were talking about. But
yeah,
I mean, fuck, I mean, asking questions about that shit, that's what people should do, right?
right. Well, and
I mean, it's not what everybody talks about.
It's just
or not what everybody feels that they can talk about.
A level of transparency that I struggle to have that level. I really work to have that level of transparency with other people that I have found really comes naturally, even to this day. Like right now, this level of transparency with you as a cabin kid. You know what I mean? Like
I agree with that. I agree with that absolutely.
It just that short amount. There's a lot of dogs going on. Something's going on there.
I think the bride just got home.
Oh no.
I'm gonna mute and just double check.
No, that's fine. But I just like, I know, like, even in my relationship with Ash, there are times where I'm like, no, you have to be transparent about this. And if I were to, in that moment, if I were to like substitute Ash in for any one of you guys from the cabin, yeah, that wouldn't even be something I would have to tell myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I actually I understand completely what you're talking about, and I don't know what that is. I feel bad about it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like if I'm holding some piece of me back in this relationship, right? This relationship with the person I love the most.
Right.
Like, what does that mean? Right.
Right.
Or is it I'm just not wanting to display my full jackassery?
that could easily be it
right.
too.
Am I displaying a fuller sense of myself by just fucking restraining myself a little bit, like not humping a gazebo? Like, is humping a gazebo really me? Like,
right.
You know,
or am I playing a character? I've struggled with that too.
That's part of what I'm wrestling with. Exactly.
And I've struggled with that definitely in my adult life, where it's like the character Palmer. It has taken in my 30s for me to like. I was well into my 30s before I realized that Palmer was a character that I really put on for people.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Oh, thank you for. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And since that realization, it's taken this long to be like, well, that's okay. Like, put on Palmer and be Palmer when you're on Long Walk Short Drink and you're talking with Dave and you're you know,
I would like to. I feel like Jackson. I think he did this like very creepily. Like, I'd like to.
Oh, did you lock up? Oh, it is literally every time he's about to like say something profound.
I was so in on that because I was catching up and I was like, oh, I think I understand what this is about. Shit.
Well, and I mean, my take on it is that level of transparency comes from the fact that because we built each other up. We were and Dave, that was really like, I think
It is
that
what I
a
was talking
huge,
about
like
before.
a huge insight on our group is like, we really loved those quirks about each other and really talked about them and embraced them, and they became things. And I think that just contributed to this level of confidence where that transparency comes from like, well, they love all these other quirky things. So if I'm just transparent about this bullshit that I'm trying to like keep inside, maybe that's just going to be another quirky thing that they'll love about me. Or they've loved every other quirky thing, so this isn't going to scare them off,
Yeah.
And I don't know if that says something about, because we talk about how then we struggle with that with these people that this is supposed to be the most important relationship in my life, and I have to remind myself to be transparent with this person versus not having to do that with a cabin kid. And is that a commentary on me, or is that a commentary on like, do I need to be built up? And then you start getting into like dealing with your ego and all that bullshit that, it just goes down this path, which I can totally see where it starts to make you feel uncomfortable, like thinking about this stuff as an adult, because hindsight's a bitch in some cases. That's my 2 cents on it.
Hindsight's a bitch if you have a letter read aloud that you wrote to a cabin kid 20 years ago. That one still haunts me. Kramms, we talked to Pumps recently in a non-cabin kid episode, but he had uncovered this letter I wrote him in training camp 20 years ago when he was in basic, what do you call it? Basic training.
Basic training, yeah.
It was devastating. Oh,
we lost Kramms again.
Oh, that's interesting. I was trying to figure out what you guys meant by that, by the transparency thing. I'm sure it takes a certain level of positive reinforcement, right, to start to revert to those impulses.
Yeah.
It's interesting that to me that Kramms mentioned Jacko in that regard, because of all of our, well, I don't know. I'm not sure I can get on board with that whole normal thing for whatever that means, because there's a lot of different interesting paths our cabin kids have taken. But but thinking about Jacko and that turning things on and off, like, so Jacko went off to first go to college in Pittsburgh, and like an art school, and then to spend the better part of the last 15 years in Europe, living hand to mouth and making art for a living.
Yeah.
I have got to witness him in the company of like some different, like, because he makes, I don't know, how do you say it? I don't know if it's friends or acquaintances or what, but he's able to assimilate himself into groups pretty well, and I'm sure it's had to develop that skill over time just to get by. But one of the things that sort of struck me spending some time with him and some of his European friends, or just for spending time with him after having spent so much time over there, is that thing I mentioned about my dad. I'm sure, like, being around me, that having been friends from such a young age awakens a certain part of him. And I don't think he's funny over there.
Yeah.
And that bummed me out. Like, it literally made me sad to think about that idea that to those people that know him there, he's this serious artist. But that's one of the best things about him, is how funny he is and how out there he can be. And it was nice to spend some time. He recently had a kid, and at the time that Brian and I were able to see him last summer, his baby mama, I hate that phrase, but I can't think of a better one right now. I think it was interesting for her to see us together and how much we laughed and how silly he was. That was not something familiar to her, I don't think. And that made me kind of sad, just because I think that, I don't know. So, and then I've learned through this podcast your whole thing about turning Palmer on and off. And I could definitely understand how it's not always comfortable to be the extroverted side of yourself. I mean, I'm someone who spent 10 years on literally center stage, like, and so I with like putting myself out as a solo performance stuff, and so I get the switch in dynamic there in a way I probably wouldn't have been able to understood otherwise. But yeah, I celebrate. I mean, I love me some Palmer. I love me some Jacko. I love me some Kramms and Pumps.
And I love Palmer too. I mean, now oh, go ahead, Kramms. No, please go on.
So Dave, when you'd perform and you'd get off stage and you'd go home, would that performance, would it have rejuvenated you or would it have drained you?
I would say rejuvenated.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I mean, that's an extrovert thing.
Yeah, we had an interesting short conversation about this a few years ago where I was a little baffled by, I was feeling this weird thing about it transitioning out of that mode. And I think you were talking about teaching. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Is this the same thing? I think.
Yeah.
It was a real insight you gave me at that time that I think is right on for me, where I thought, if I have this need to do that and I'm not doing it now, I can't remember exactly how it was put, but I think I was wondering if I was suffering from that loss of like whatever, being able to have that relationship with showing myself in that way or an audience or whatever. And you said something that I remember quite frequently, which was something to do with the idea that it's not for you. It's not, you were telling this to me, for you, it's not about the performance part of it so much as it is about like the thing that you made that you're sharing. And I was like, oh, that's actually right. And why I think I don't necessarily miss that. I mean, I miss it a little bit, but.
Okay.
Well, how are you thinking about it?
So that gets to the point. So it's not the sharing of it that gets you off. It's the fact that you've created something to share.
Yeah, maybe. The sharing part's important.
Those are two different. I mean, but those are two different things.
I think for me, I don't inherently need the attention. Is what it comes down to.
Okay.
And that sort of sounds a lot more noble than I mean it, because I certainly have a lot of flaws, and there's a lot of flaws in my sort of psychosis of needing to do these things, but I don't inherently need people to be paying attention to me to do the thing. I guess I'll do the thing anyway.
Yeah.
For anybody.
For what?
As we've said about some projects, it's
yeah.
Why am I doing this? Who is this for?
Yeah. I have.
Yeah. No, I mean.
Yeah,
but
made
we've
more
talked
peace
about
about
the need
doing
to
that for
create,
myself.
though. That's a recurring thing on this show. Is the need to create? That's one of the reasons why this show exists. Is because
yeah, you could easily have this conversation in private, but there's something about
which is another thing that we don't see, but we wouldn't have it in private. You're right.
Like, yeah.
No.
Which that's a commentary on us though, and not other people or not this. Who use this.
It is a commentary on us.
Absolutely. And but I don't necessarily see that as a negative thing if we're talking and having a conversation.
Oh, it's not a negative thing at all. No.
So
it's working out great for me right now.
How many people are talking to two of their greatest friends from high school on a Wednesday night?
No, how many?
Yeah, long. Yeah, I mean, it's just people don't do that. People say they do that. People don't do it.
Right.
People call each other on their birthdays and whatever, they run into each other. And, that's what it is. I mean.
Well, we have one last cabin question.
I don't feel like I've answered any.
I've
just gotten done grading exams. I feel like I've gotten a 0 on this exam.
No way. This has been an amazing conversation, and and a great insight. Like another great insight in like so many different angles to the cabin that I had not even considered. after this
Okay.
conversation. So seriously,
Okay.
like don't beat yourself up.
We should
Jesus.
have a group cabin boys episode.
Oh.
Hell yeah.
Like
You-
like after we get enough Cabin Kid episodes, like to just bring
Or
all
cabin kids. I said cabin boys because
yeah, Cabin Kids, yeah. That was
We're
a
just
little
going for the
That was
alliteration.
misogynistic. No. Yeah. So
Well, before we ask that last sort of kicker question,
oh yeah,
though,
go ahead.
especially given Kramms' most recent statement about feeling like he answered none of them.
Yeah.
Well, and I should also say, we hope you'll come back just for the excuse to hang out. That's all this really is a way to kind of make sure that we're talking. You won't have to go through cabin questions next
Yes,
time.
please come back just so that we can just talk about other stuff than the cabin. That's why we
Yeah,
want.
absolutely.
Sure,
It's
sure,
just a-
yeah, and we can refer back to cabin kid stuff.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
But that won't be the focus. We'll
Right,
talk
no,
more
yeah.
about like current shit, like
oh,
what's
I'd
going
like,
on in
yeah,
our
I'd like
lives
to,
now.
yeah, I'd like that.
I would like an opportunity to watch some Rick and Morty before we talk Rick and Morty.
Oh, you're not into Rick and Morty?
I should. You're like the 85th person that told me.
Oh my god, I cannot
same
believe
here.
that.
I've only seen one Rick and Morty episode, and the Rick and Morty person that I know who's like they're like, what episode have you seen?
What
I
is
love that
going
person.
on here?
And then I'll
What?
say the episode, and then I'm like, oh my gosh! But if you've seen any episode, that's the episode to see. So
No, it's so fucking deep, and
I know.
just,
I know
it's all I talk about with anybody.
it's not on any streaming service. If it was on a streaming service, I would like.
The first 2 seasons are on Hulu.
See,
Oh,
I
I
need to
just
get
got
Hulu.
Hulu.
I need to get Hulu. That's what needs to happen. Is I need to get Hulu. I just quit my job though. I can't add a.
Yeah,
stream-
no,
like,
you.
How can I justify like getting a streaming service if I just quit my job? Like,
I love that we just talked about all that, and it just comes out that you just quit your job, which would be.
oh no, the
amazing.
audience knows that I quit my job. Like that was in the last episode. So
Oh, okay,
Uh,
but still, that seems more important than Rick and Morty.
yeah. Oh no, I like my irresponsibility knows no bounds. You have no idea.
Oh man, that's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I think most men could wear that t-shirt
Yeah.
confidently or ashamedly.
Well, I mean, and talking about like putting on, I say like putting on Palmer and taking off Palmer like it's a negative
Uh-huh.
thing, and it's like really now these days, like I'm trying to re-embrace that. It like that.
Re-embrace the Palmer inside.
Yeah, like there was
That's
a
what I
period.
tell myself whenever I go out for a
Yeah,
challenging interview or a
Any of
lecture
that
or
stuff.
something. Yeah, it's like Palmer. What would Palmer do?
Oh
There you
no,
go.
no, no.
WWPD.
I thought you were gonna say Kramms. I thought you were gonna say Kramms.
No. No.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying like it. There was a period recently where I was really resentful of because there were people in my life that I felt like they just wanted Palmer. That's all. They didn't want it. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like just be here to entertain us, and that's what you're here for. And I mean, and that's not the case. That was, but it definitely, it as a result of that though, it was trying to find like, you know, I can't be a total asshole all the time because that only just like makes me feel good and everybody
Right.
else is miserable. And I can't just be Palmer all the time because then I feel wasted and everybody else is entertained and happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So I got to, and so now I'm in this point where in the like job thing and all that, like that all factors into it where I'm just trying to find that like happy balance, you know?
Yeah.
And trying to find those pieces of like, what is it about Palmer that I enjoy, you know, and being
Right.
a character.
Well, that's hard. I mean, yeah, I went out this last weekend and had a really good time and drank a little bit and was out with friends and my wife, and you know, I guess I became a life of a party to some degree. Like I was having fun and making jokes, and people were entertained, and everything was good. And then I woke up the next morning just with like regret and dread and shame.
Yeah.
And it lasted like 2 or 3 days, and it's like I couldn't even point to anything in particular, but it's just like, is that who I am? Like, am I a person who like makes people laugh and is a source of people's good times and whatever? And that shouldn't be a bad thing, but I was just like, no, that's not me. That's not me entirely, at least.
Right.
Obviously I'm a person who does that though. Right.
Why
this cycle of like having fun and then shame?
And I think that's where it's at, is like you like just eliminate that negative feedback loop, as the subtle art of not giving a fuck would teach you. It's like, just cut that out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, cut that.
Which you can download for free. Just kidding.
And
LWSD.
No, audibletrial.com/LWSD. You can download that for free. Yeah. But that's what it'll teach you, is just like, cut that shit out, because if you enjoy it and they enjoy it, then it's okay. And
right. And don't fret the small stuff.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there are people there who didn't get into your whole karaoke routine where you dropped your pants or whatever.
I wish I was there.
Just after you got tenure.
What was the song? I gotta know.
Oh, no, I don't know. No, I don't want to. This is a hypothetical.
Oh, shit.
You said something. You said something earlier that I think is a really important point that I keep thinking about as you guys are talking about this. Or I've certainly woken up with this shame and regret, all that stuff. But Kramms, when you asked me about the performing thing, like when you finished, did you feel rejuvenated or drained? And I said I felt rejuvenated. So I think that's a pretty good, I don't know, litmus test that, if after being, whether it's Palmer or Jacko or Kramms or Dave or whatever it is, like if you feel rejuvenated after that experience, that's probably a good thing. If you do somehow feel drained or upset, then that's probably something different. But I don't think it's necessarily like mutually exclusive.
No, and I think I'm... So Sarah asks me this all the time, because Sarah's my wife. She's clearly an introvert. The social interactions tend to stress her out, and she sees me as a clear extrovert because I'll do those things. I mean, I put myself in front of people for a living, and I'll embarrass myself in front of people in karaoke and whatever, and have a good time with it. But it's, and I think all that's true. I think that's right. But I stress a lot about my interactions after the fact. So like I could perform a set, and feel great about it that night. But then I'll wake up feeling like shit about it.
Yeah.
And I'll feel shit about it for the next couple days. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it does actually. I mean, at least the way I experience that is generally if I feel the things that I will feel shame and guilt about afterwards, it's always for me surrounding, it's something I've done while I was drunk.
Well, that's true, and that's true for me too. Because all the times I've performed in the last 15 years there's been alcohol involved.
And maybe that's interesting with the cabin as well, is because we were being these version. Well, not necessarily versions of ourselves, but we were free to be ourselves. And if we felt celebrated or embraced or whatever, we might not have felt or second guessed it the next day because there wasn't something else involved.
There wasn't
I don't know.
that
Yeah,
perpetuated
maybe.
it. Yeah, it was pure.
Because I think too. Well, I was gonna say it's like maybe if like if people are drunk and stuff, like you never know how you're perceived by other people. But I think that sense of like regret and shame comes internally. But yeah, there's that. There isn't that option. I guess back then, and maybe that's an element of why it's a little bit more. Well, I was gonna say pure, but that's not right. I'm gonna crack a Coke. This is pure. That's only because I run out of beer. But this is one of those Cokes that's all actual sugar.
I have to piss like a racehorse.
quick.
I'm gonna go pee real quick, and I'll be right back.
Let's take it 2.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, like just pee and come back.
Okay.
Deal.
Yeah.
All right.
So I need
I'll
to
crack
pee
it when I come
too.
back.
Jesus, it's been too long since I got to set my eyes on your face for real in person. And I forgot about like going to your brother's house and seeing you. Jesus, what a terrible.
No, that was awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but even that's been too long.
You came out to Wyoming too.
I still talk about that was a big deal for me. That was like my first time by myself, like, and took a train across the country. And
That was awesome.
I still like one of the regrets I always feel like I'm going to pay off in hell is like the amount of money you spent to take me skiing.
Oh God!
And like,
yeah,
I like walked down the mountain. Like you spent so much money, and like we're just a college kid. And I'm just like, I got to the top and fell twice, and I'm like, fuck this noise. I'll walk down, and I did. And it took me like 3 hours. And
you walked down the ski hill.
I walked down the mountain. Yeah,
the mountain. There's a whole mountain. Yeah, I mean it wasn't a big mountain.
That's amazing.
Because I wasn't gonna ski, and like Kramms had dropped. First off, we drove like so far to get there, and
We did not drive that far.
we drove. Well, I mean, I felt like anywhere we went in Wyoming, it was a drive, and then so we drove, and then dropped just a ton of money. In my eyes, in my 18-year-old like high school student's eyes, dropped a lot of money to go skiing, to like rent all the equipment. And I should have said something like when we were putting the boots on, and it took 2 people to like clamp the boots around my legs. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Like, I'm even then I'm like, was thinking like, yeah, this isn't going to work. But that whole experience is what created my life rule that I do not reduce the friction between my feet and the ground. I like,
That's
I avoid all activity that reduces the friction between my.
Oh shit! Did you stayed with Chrissy, didn't you?
Yeah, I stayed at Chrissy's apartment. Yeah.
Gosh, I remember that.
Because you lived on campus, right? And
I had a dorm, yeah.
Yeah.
But I generally slept with her. I generally stayed with her.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you stayed in your dorm that whole week.
No, yeah. So we were all staying in the same thing, and you slept on that couch, which was
Yep.
terrible.
Yep. And I remember we shot so many photos.
I have not seen any of these photos.
Oh man, I have a whole Wyoming series that.
Oh, yeah.
of that
Wow.
trip. Like,
Now's the time.
I just remember.
LWSD48.
I remember that you would grab a Coke before you went into the shower.
oh yeah. Yep. There was again, it's no wonder I am the way I am, but like that was the period of my life where that was the only fluid intake that I ever took.
Oh yeah, no, that was yeah. I transitioned straight from that to alcohol.
Yeah.
And other substances. Yeah.
Absinthe, as we
Edit that out.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I need to try some.
Sounds intense.
No. Yeah, shoot. Yeah, no, I was just I was thinking earlier about the people who visited me in Wyoming. It's a strange list.
Yeah.
Well, it's not strange. It doesn't include Dave.
Does not
Fuck
know.
you,
I didn't
Dave.
look it up. Sorry,
Fuck you,
yeah, that
Dave.
didn't happen.
Or Jackson, or but yeah, fuck yeah, you Palmer,
Yep.
Jill Almond,
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, he lost.
Tiffany.
Oh, there we go. He came back. He was just thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I knew there was one more. Yeah.
Wow. That is a strange list.
Right?
Fuck. I mean, arguably, it was even strange that I came out to visit because, I mean, we were close, of course, because we were cabin kids. But you're right. No Dave, no Jackson, no
Bauman, no Corey,
no Corey.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And like you said, I mean, you
even like one of them, and then me and those other people. But,
right?
Yeah.
And the Jill.
Well, I still think about that trip. That was a very influential trip for me. So.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
In what way?
Just to get to see a different part of America, and then to get to experience. That was like the first time that I took a trip. I mean, I was still in high school. That was my senior year. That was my senior year spring break, and that was the first time I was doing really anything without a direct involvement with my parents.
Yeah.
And to take a trip,
awesome.
like to be on a train as an 18-year-old, like across the country, and to see that much of the country again without that influence of your parents, and to just hang out with like people your age, and like you guys were the first people my age that were like being adults, Which I mean, we laugh about that now, but like that, like Chrissy had an apartment. Like Chrissy had an apartment.
I mean,
and,
it was a basement of a shitty house
and a full-time job, and like you're going to school, like college full-time, and like trying to start a relationship, and trying to get degrees, and doing responsible things, and so that was a big influential trip for me. So, I mean, I tell the story about how I fell asleep on the train and woke up to Where the Streets Have No Name playing in my headphones, and not realizing where I was. And so literally the streets had no name where I was. And that was my U2 story that I told on the U2 thing. So, and that was on that trip. Yeah.
That's so great.
So
that was a good trip.
It was fun.
Yeah.
A lot of great pictures taken. I'm going to have to pull some out. There's going to be some.
Oh,
tweets
yes,
for the,
please. Some LWSD history.
Yeah, LWSD history for sure. So, all right, I have to wrap up because I'm dragging, and I'm a little drunk. Go ahead,
Kramms. We want to give you so there's all the questions you were not necessarily satisfied with your own answers, though I think I can speak for Palmer when I say we were.
Absolutely.
Is there anything cabin-oriented that you would like to talk about on your Cabin Kid episode? Just anything at all. You can take a second to think about it before we ask you the final. The final question is really more of a joke than anything else.
Yeah.
Any things you remember? I don't know. Anything cabin-oriented at
Or you
all?
might have locked up. Or you might be thinking. Oh, no. There's the laugh. We still there.
No, yeah. No, I don't know. Just ask the question.
That's the last formal question. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see if I can get it here. I almost know it by heart, but now remember, these came from Twinkie, so it's extra fun, I feel like.
Yeah.
Number 5. Will you fight Bauman if he asks you to?
I would fight Bauman even if he didn't ask me to. I would
Yeah.
punch that guy straight in the nose.
Wow. I want to hear the Bauman album. Like,
No.
I really do, though. I really want to hear that. That's
What exists, doesn't it? I mean,
Yes, you can
Yeah,
listen to it, and you don't want to air it because you haven't listened to it.
no, it's good. I got it right in front of me.
No, I do want to hear it.
I didn't know that he was such a central theme, but
I mean,
I'm all the more
yeah.
interested.
I mean,
Wait.
there's
It's not Stargazer. Is it It's not
it's
that.
Stargazer. Yeah,
It is Stargazer? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that. Fantastic album. I didn't know that he was the influence of that album. I never knew that.
Oh no, he's part of at least all of the themes of all the songs.
Well, I'd say humility, probably the song "Humility."
Humility, definitely most of all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally thought
Believe
about that
also
album today.
was mostly. Congratulations, also mostly.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'd like to hear a lot more about that.
Here's the thing is because Twinkie has talked about wanting to do a cult / church episode.
Uh-huh.
We're
Yeah.
all- That's the one you need to come back on.
Yes.
That one for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think that I don't know. I think that there is something to like our side as being non-church people of the loss that we had to go through in that adolescence of our friends going through that transition.
Yeah. But I feel like they went through. Well, Twinkie, I think, went through something special.
Sure. 100%.
Yeah. And yeah.
And if anything, I think his experience might also help us with I don't know, with reflection or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. But for sure, June 30th, we're gonna record the Logan episode. You should be a part of that for sure.
Okay. It sounds good.
Bumps will be there. Logan will be there. We'll do more awkward cabin talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fantastic.
Then of course we do this every other Wednesday or so, and so a lot of times Palmer will send out kind of a mass invite to the cast, and they rarely take us up on it. But if you could listen live and chat, as sometimes my brother does, or
Okay.
or you can join us just like this. I mean, honestly, this is very much a surrogate cabin for us,
Awesome.
just to make sure we're all talking.
You kind of have a Donald Glover look. Mm.
Oh my God, my father-in-law just said that recently.
Really?
I'll take
Oh,
it. Yeah. Wow. Awesome.
I just
Moto-
got that. I got that vibe just with his last angle, and yeah.
Speaking of
Fantastic. Thank you.
he has been chatting. I missed all these chats, but when we were talking about the Des Moines trip. He had Star Wars in Iowa, karate in the garage, dreams do come true. So we are maybe a documentary. We are that all that's happening. But yes, we need to have that would be awesome if we had like a cabin reunion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I've got a lot to unpack. So if you guys are my counselors, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, seriously, Kramms, like
I'm a tough nut to crack, but
we all are. Shit.
Yeah. But I love this shit.
Listen to Do Therapy. Listen to On Being Dicks. That's a great episode.
We're trying to unpack our shit every week.
Every week.
Every other week.
This is great. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Well,
you're always welcome.
Always welcome.
All
Just
right.
make the Kramms Gmail and then send it to me so I know what it is, and you'll get on the invite list every time I put out the live link. We'd love to have you just pop in every now and then just to offer your insight for sure. So,
Oh yeah.
Kramms, this has been an absolute pleasure, man, catching up with you. And Jesus, I hope you take us up on that invite, and that I don't have to wait like well. And I know that much responsibility is on me too, but that it's not 4 years again before.
Yeah. Shit, that's terrible.
It is, especially in this age when again, behold the power of the internet, like what you can do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad to see you're just, I don't know. You seem good.
I'm better now that I quit my job. That's for sure.
Yeah. We need to have a whole thing on our jobs. And
absolutely.
I love all the numbers and stuff on your board. On the left.
Oh
there.
yeah.
Do you know this is how we convinced ourselves that I could quit my job? This is
oh no.
That was what I suspected.
That's not.
Yeah, this is all but breaking down budgets and like how we what the numbers would look like. So
it's freedom right there.
It is freedom.
Yeah, freedom. That's what freedom looks like in this
we have
capitalist hellhole.
We have a great I'm really happy with the plan that we have on what I'm gonna do. So it'll be fun.
We're good. Good. What is the plan?
Well, the math that I'm breaking all the rules that you're supposed to do, but I'm tapping into retirement to pay off some debt, and that'll all get cleared out, and then I'm going to have a little bit extra that I'm going to get a CNC machine and open custom signs,
music factory,
and vinyl stickers and signage and stuff like that, and pinball restoration and arcade restoration.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of
That
stuff.
sounds awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, it does.
So
really cool.
So I'm my retirement's already been rolled over into my IRA, and so now I'm just waiting on that check to clear, and then once that clears, then I'll be able to do, because I didn't because it was all in teacher retirement, I would have had to withdraw all of it if I wanted to withdraw from them. So, but I could roll it all into an IRA, and then the IRA lets me withdraw just a piece.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So I'm just going to withdraw just a piece to pay off that debt, and then a little bit extra to get some equipment. And I met with a tax guy, and I'm going to probably open some kind of business and either do an LLC or a Schedule C, and then just start selling shit online and making stuff.
Shit, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the crazy thing about, and this is maybe a closing thought or whatever, but whenever I talk with people like Dave or Corey or whoever it is, Sarah will ask me, well, what's going on in their life? And I usually have no answer. Because we haven't talked about it at all.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's just a weird thing. But no, that sounds awesome. Awesome, Palmer.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
It's really scary and a little dreamier than I've let myself be in the last few years. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
You got to do it.
Got to dream up the world you want to live in. Got to
Well, you only
got to dream out loud.
Yeah.
TM.
It's from Zeropa, but yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Awesome. Well, Kramps, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and I really do hope that I see a text from you in the next few days. That's a new Kramps Gmail email, so I can start inviting you to these for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
So we'd love to have you back on for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, you're the first person we tracked down and tried to convince to come on.
Yeah,
Everyone
which
else said,
didn't
I
take
sort
very
of
much
asked about
convincing.
it.
I think it was one text from you.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Yeah, I'll come on. What else I got going?"
Yeah.
It's everything I hoped.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it was. It worked
Thank
out
you.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was terrible, but
No.
It was not terrible.
I'm gonna go to
No,
bed
you're
and wake up
fine.
in shame.
Seriously, not like don't do that to yourself. Like this was fantastic.
No, there's no shame at the cabin.
None
That's
at all.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
I was gonna make a joke there, but it wasn't the time.
all right. Well, let's go through the spiel one last time before we sign off here. So,
Yep.
make sure that you're following us on Twitter at LWSD Pod. Make sure that you can subscribe at any of your favorite podcasting apps by searching Long Walk Short Drink. Please head over to YouTube and subscribe on our channel over there by searching for Long Walk Short Drink. We're still working on getting those 100 subscribers so we can get our unique URL, which will make it much easier for other subscribers to find us on YouTube. Make sure you ring the bell while you're there so that way you get notified every time we go live for these live session recordings of our episodes. Head over to audibletrial.com to sign up for your free Audible trial, audibletrial.com/LWSD, and download your free audiobook. I think that's about it. Dave, you got anything else? Yeah. Sometimes it's all you need. One is all you need.
One is all you need.
Who's touring again? Did you hear that? Like they were coming out with another album.
Did.
I heard rumors of another meeting, and I heard another movie, and their
Oh.
album. Like shit, Tenacious D. Shit. That we'll go another hour and a half if we start talking about Tenacious D.
Let's do it. I'm not going
No.
Palmer, you got so lame.
Kramms is up for this. I like it. You gotta
like,
come back every time.
I'm the only unemployed bastard of this trio right here.
I'm
and
kind of unemployed right now. I'm an
not-
academic.
He's entering the off season.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been absolute real, gentlemen. This has been a great session of Dude Therapy. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Thank you, sir. Thank you,
well.
Kramms.
Absolutely.
Yep. Take
All
care,
right.
you guys.
Love you guys. Have a great night.
Love you too. Take care. Bye, long walkers.
Yep. Adios. Thanks for the listening, folks.